So it's my work now to and my honor to introduce Irena Kraja, our first speaker to you. She is psychologist and coordinator of Mary Ward Loreto Advice and Service Center in Tirana. And her first degree is in psychology. She holds a Master of Arts in Counseling and is specialized in cognitive behavioral therapy. She has been employed over the past 9 years in Mary Ward Loreto Albania projects, working with women and girls in rural areas of Albania. Since 2016, she is the coordinator of Mary Ward Loreto Women Advice Service Center of Tirana in Albania. During her work, she develops initial identification of presumed victims of trafficking and victims of trafficking at the Women Advice Service Center and works through their reintegration programs. She develops psychological counseling and therapy sessions with women and young adults. She is assisting with the Albanian victims in the shelters of Medai Trust in the United Kingdom through online assessment and counseling, and when possible, directly in the safe houses. She is also providing psychological evidence to support the process of asylum-seeking applications. Irena, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Miriam, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me today to, and the next day of the webinar as well, to talk about trauma, to talk about human trafficking, and to share what I learned and what I faced while working with people who suffer or who underwent or are survivors of trauma. In fact, this is a health, it's a psychological, it's a social, cultural, personal, it's as well a political topic. So it's not just a psychological, and it is indeed a very sensitive topic, because to understand trauma is important to have information about it, but it is more important to have awareness, to have empathy, solidarity, to be helpful for those who undergo or survive trauma, but as well to bring hope and justice into their life. So today I'm going to talk about trauma in general, and as well be a bit specific. But on the next webinar, I'm talking more specifically about trauma and human trafficking. So, we are talking about trauma and post-trauma. I can move the slides, right? Okay. Okay. What is important to understand for us is that we consider trauma any event that can cause threat to a person, or that is perceived as a threat to a person, or when somebody is witnessing a traumatic event, is witnessing an event that is threatening, that brings fear and danger to the person. So traumatic experiences may include being in or witnessing a serious accident, being physically assaulted, being in a war, being involved in natural disaster, witnessing sexual assault or abuse. And we have to understand that traumatic events are really overwhelming. Trauma is a response that is deeply distressing or disturbing. This response is to an event which is disturbing, which is fearful, which is perceived as well as an event that can bring some changes to the life. These events that happen directly, or these are events that happen to somebody close to us. I'm really sorry because I became a bit emotional. I worked for many years with people who suffer trauma, and sometimes I feel like trauma is not just about the person. Trauma is as well about us, because we are responsible on the way how we deal with these people. We have to understand that trauma lies on a continuum, but is always a fight, flight, or a freeze response. So when we undergo an event which is actually threatening, we have to react. The reaction is has to be immediate, and at this moment we don't have sometimes time to think. So we fight, we run away, or we freeze. Emotional and psychological trauma is a damage or injury to the brain after living through an extremely frightening or distressing event. Trauma causes some injuries to the brain, and this is important for us to understand that we cannot function in the same way when we undergo trauma. Trauma affects the way and the ability to think, which means that the brain goes from learning mode to survival mode. In everyday life, we face problems and we find solutions. While during trauma or after trauma, this ability is affected and we don't see things as positively as we used to see before. There are some types of trauma: small trauma and large trauma. Small trauma are events that exceed our capacity to cope and cause disruption or in emotional functioning. This might be everything: the loss of a job, feeling betrayed, divorce, while large traumas are traumas that really affect the way of functioning. So it's not just a loss of a job, but it's an extraordinary or significant event that happens to us. It is acute trauma that results from a single stressful or dangerous event. Chronic trauma, repeated and prolonged exposure to highly stressful events. Complex trauma that results from exposure to multiple traumatic events. And I included here as well childhood trauma, because it's very important to understand that to children, what happens to them is what is done to them. And complex trauma, which can start as well from childhood, may affect even the personality, and in many cases can bring even personality disorder. There are many consequences of the trauma, and sometimes we don't know where to start. So there are not symptoms that we can say this is the first sign of trauma. And it all goes in a circle. It can start from feeling depressed mood, insomnia, nightmares, difficulty concentrating, and it can go even to suicide attempts or suicide thoughts. Here are some pictures that I wanted to talk about, because trauma somewhere is a trauma everywhere. Nothing that happens around us belongs to the people that happens. We see, we witness, and especially nowadays with the social media and all the news, it seems like we face the same issues. For example, now we are going through a pandemic situation, and it's like a universal traumatic event, although everybody reacts differently to this event. There are those people who are traumatized or who are facing other mental or emotional issues because this event brought into surface other anxieties. There is that group of people who don't believe in virus and actually don't feel any kind of traumatic events, and those who see the danger but don't live in fear. I mean that the traumatic event can be the same for everybody, but the way we perceive it is the way we feel it, whether we go through trauma and how we cope with it. In the first picture, what we see, we all remember 11th of September, and we all remember the terrorist attack. Why was it a trauma for many people that saw that news? We are talking about America. We are talking about the most powerful country, which is considered to be safe as well. So that, in an unpredicted way, happened in the most powerful place. So what triggers this to everybody and why people can perceive it as trauma? It's because nothing is safe. And when our safety is, let's say, attacked, our way of thinking and our existence is not secure anymore. The second picture, which is considered to be one of the pictures that has raised more awareness, is a child. Why the photograph? I don't like posting children pictures, especially when it is so sad, but the photographer took the picture from an angle that everybody can project the danger that can happen to them. People could see a child, but they would put the face of their children to this child, like tomorrow this might happen to my children. So what happened there came closer to us. The other picture is a tsunami, like it's a huge phenomenon, which we are afraid of things that we cannot control. It's the war in Syria. It's the earthquake in Albania. The earthquake, it's a natural disaster and it's a traumatic event, but what triggered it? It happened during the night when people went to sleep, hoping for another day, planning for another day, safe, quiet, calm, that tomorrow they will go on with their plans. Just when they were more quiet, sleeping, an earthquake happened, and it has shaken the whole of their existence like nothing was like before. And this traumatic event not only changed their lives, but it changed how they see now even those safety moments that they consider like safety moments. And the other picture is the fire in Australia. I was looking at the comments that people made on social media about the fire, and they spoke about the poor kangaroos. Why? Because traumatic event is considered more an event that happens to those who are not guilty, to those who actually become victims. They pay for nothing. They have done nothing and pay for nothing. So that's why violence, that's why sexual assault, that's why bullying, that's why murder, everything can be considered a trauma because it happens to those who are not paying for something. Trauma occurs when threat and injustice is perceived. When people don't perceive something as a threat, they don't perceive it as and injustice when they are not aware that actually this is going against their values, is going against their beliefs, against their perceptions, they don't perceive it as trauma. I wanted to go to the video to explain how trauma feels. Actually, it is a song. Do you see it?
At the starting of the week, at Summit Talks, you'll hear them speak. It's only Monday. At the starting of the week, at Summit Talks, you'll hear negotiations breaking down. See those leaders start to frown. It's sword and gun day. Tomorrow never comes until it's too late. You could be sitting, taking lunch. The news will hit you like a punch. It's only Tuesday. You never thought we'd go to war after all the things we saw. It's April Fool's Day. Tomorrow never comes until it's too late. We'll all go running underground and we'll be listening for the sound. It's only Wednesday. In your shelter dimly lit, take some wool and learn to knit, 'cause it's a long day. Tomorrow never comes until it's too late. You hear a whistling overhead. Are you alive or are you dead? It's only Thursday. You feel the shaking of the ground. A million candles burn around. Is it your birthday? Tomorrow never comes until it's too late. Oh, that shelter is your home, the living space you have outgrown. It's only Friday. As you come out to the light, and your eyes behold the sight, it must be doomsday. Tomorrow never comes until it's too late. Ain't it funny how men think they made the bond, they are extinct, it's only Saturday. I think tomorrow's come, I think it's too late. I think tomorrow's come, I think it's too late. Think tomorrow's come, I think it's too late.
Okay. So this is the 6-day war. So I used this video to illustrate how trauma can start. Starting one day when somebody less expected it, when they don't know what is going to happen. So starting Monday and ending on Saturday, and feeling like tomorrow will never come. And when tomorrow comes, it's too late because of the damage is done. So nobody and nothing can undo what happened. And the person feels hopeless. And even working with victims and survivors of human trafficking, although the event has ended, they are safe, they are not exposed to danger, but they feel like this event is still present with them. Tomorrow has come for them, people are there helping and supporting, but they feel like it's too late. And although they might have a sense of justice, they still continue to feel the injustice. And so we go from the 6-day war to the post-effects of the trauma, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't want to see it as a disorder. I want to see it as a natural human response, although it might take a long time. And it's important for us to understand that post-traumatic stress is a reaction that lasts for a long time, and that all of us feels some feelings, or we have some symptoms of post-traumatic stress, although we cannot include them as post-traumatic stress because we all react in an emotional way towards a traumatic event. So we can go through acute stress disorder, or we can go through PTSD. PTSD is when these feelings continue and for a longer time, and as well they increase and they become so strong, so the person does not function as before. These symptoms can begin within 3 months of the events and can last even for years. The symptoms are as written here, but I want to show them and illustrate them with a video that speaks just about how a survivor or victim of human trafficking feels PTSD.
I'd get here. I used to be an ordinary girl. Now, I'm just a sex addict. I thought of escaping, but they did whatever they wanted with me. I could breathe, but I felt dead inside. When I was rescued, I thought the worst part was over. Then, I realized I didn't know what I was saying. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I felt horrified all the time, and didn't know why. I couldn't forget the traumatic event, as they started calling it. Thoughts, images, voices were always in my mind, reminding me of the horror I felt there. Even at nights, I dreamed about it. I was afraid of being awake because the thoughts wouldn't disappear, but sleeping terrified me even more. The dreams felt so real. I had the sensation that I never left that horrible place. My family told me to talk about it, but I tried to avoid everything related with the event, places, men, everything. I just stayed home, trying to forget all about it, but it seemed impossible. My friends and family tried to convince me to get back to my normal life, but I just couldn't. Everything they told me made me mad. I had anger attacks every day without exception. I couldn't go anywhere, nor do anything without thinking about it. I tried. I really tried, but I just couldn't. And nobody seemed to understand it. I was alone. Whenever someone tried to come close, I would push them away. Why would I want them to be close if they didn't get me? I felt like it could happen again. I felt like I would never get over it. I just wanted to be alone. I didn't let people help me, kiss me, or even hug me. I thought there was no future. I wished the pain would stop. I didn't want to live anymore. It took a long time. to finally feel alive again.
Okay. So that is actually illustrated what are the symptoms of PTSD and how it feels after going through human trafficking and exploitation. In fact, trauma is a cry for help, is a cry for justice, and is a cry for union. So although somebody might seem like they don't want anybody close to them, it is actually asking for help. Although they may seem like they don't want it, it's a way to ask for it, to cry for it even more. So before I thank you, I wanted to say that we can help, and we are here to help, and thank you for inviting me today.
Dear Irena, thank you so much for this very clear and impressive explanation about what trauma is. With this introduction, you set the ground for this webinar and also for the following webinar next week, because now we have an idea what we are speaking about, and we have an idea how severe and grave this problem of trauma is, what we are handling or what we want to deepen today and next week. So thank you very much. We have I take two questions together because we get nice questions in at the moment. So Kelly O'Donnell asks how long or it needs a long time to recover, and what helps people to recover. And Yvonne van der Kar asks, is it possible for a victim to really recover from this ordeal, or will they always stay traumatized? I think that is very similar, and I think that Irena could be the panelist first to answer this question.
Okay, so the first question was, is it possible for a victim to really recover, or what help? Okay. It is possible to recover. It is possible to really recover, because we have to keep in mind that trauma is a response to a distressing or disturbing event. So the response we give to these events might change. And as long as these responses change, that event is not perceived anymore as a traumatic event. Of course, that is something that will never be forgotten. It is something that time after time may interfere in everyday life, but the way the survivors cope has changed. They have gained healthy coping mechanisms, and they can function normally in everyday life. And even when they have flashbacks, when they feel like living the same moments like in the past, they will know how to cope even with these reliving moments of the traumatic events. So when we say if they overcome trauma, we say yes, they overcome trauma. Do they overcome memories? Do they forget memories? They don't forget memories. And memories are not just vision, like vision or auditive memories. They are emotional memories, and the way how they can cope with the emotions is something that they will learn during the support with others, from others. So we hope they will not stay traumatized, because it means that they will not have support if they stay through trauma during the whole life. And the next question, which was, can you help me, Miriam? How do we help was something like that.
Or is it possible for a victim to really recover from this ordeal?
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
they always stay traumatized? And I added a new question that came in because it relates, and do survivors need specialized counsel services?
Yes, they need specialized counseling, but first they need safety. The first thing they need is to feel safe and not to be exposed, not just to danger, but as well to be exposed to unfamiliar situation. So whilst they are safe, then it's very important for them to give some reflection time and not to get them immediately involved into this support system, because first of all they just went out of a situation, of a very painful situation, and they will need time to relax, let's say, and after that the support that has to be given has to be multidisciplinary, starting from safety, sheltering, going on with counseling, going on with social activities, going on with education, attending maybe school, college, or any other vocational courses. So step by step integrating to everyday life, but it has to be very careful, and we sometimes have to go with the rhythm of the survivors. So they are the ones that will show us how we are going to support them.
Thank you for this comprehensive answer, Irena. So we see how interesting and how interested the listeners are and the participants. Now the time is getting to an end, and I would like to ask the panelists if they want to say a final word to conclude the webinar. Who wants to start?
Irena.
Irena, you are still, you haven't answered.
I am still. Okay, I'm really grateful for this webinar, and as well to listen to all of you and your experiences, and very helpful information as well for me as a professional. So we don't know everything, and it's very important to share. I hope it helped as well what I put here, and hopefully we all together can make it more, raise more awareness and bring more people together and actually do something like action.
Thank you.
Thank you.